I've got to manage myself, I've got to manage my mind. The task is not easy, but to high heights I climb.
I'm determined to succeed, so no excuses please. If you don't want success in life, then don't hinder me. Yes, let the whole world know you are a CEO. You are a CEO. I'm a CEO. You are a CEO. I'm a CEO. The time is here to celebrate. You are a CEO. You are a CEO. You are a CEO. You are a CEO. Yes, let the whole world know. The time is here to celebrate. Success is calling, so don't be late. You are a CEO.
Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Lee Parker, and we are here for another exciting show here on CEO TV. And I want to again welcome you tonight. And this is the show that we talked about, Am I Growing? And I know when we talk about growing, not everyone thinks about the same thing, but after tonight, I want you to think a lot more deeply about what this question is really asking. At the end of the day, we all need to grow. We all need to be better. We always talk at URCO about becoming the best version of ourselves. And so I want to really begin to get you to think very deeply about something. So as you can see on the screen, here's a critical question for you. As you sit here and you listen to this show tonight, I want you to consider this inward question. Do you really want to grow? Do you really want to grow? You know, this is a critical question. Sometimes people ask me, they say, well, what can you, our CEO, do for me? And I often flip it back and say, what do you want it to do for you? So if you have something that could accelerate your success, if it could give you access to something to remove personal limitation, if you could be in an environment that helped you to push forward further in life in every area because it impacts everything that you bring to every challenge that you face, what would that do for you? What do you want it to do for you? So this is a thing that we have to begin to understand when we talk to people about you are a CEO. Success is not on the proven ground. Positivity is not on the proven ground. Being around positive people is not on the proven ground. Learning things that matter is not on the proven ground. The key is you and I are on the proven ground, whether or not we want to grow enough so that we are willing to put the effort in to use the tools around us to make sure we can be as tall as we can be in our personal and professional life. So considering this, I want you to look at something. So when you think about trees, there's different types of trees, just using fruit trees, for example. And you can have a tree that's more of a dwarf, small in size, but has an abundance of fruit. You know, sometimes we feel that we might not be where we want to be, but as we're going through struggle and even at the size that we're at, we still have fruit. We still have things that we've produced, things that we've learned. Then there's upright growing trees. They can be, 12 to 15 feet tall or so and yield a smaller amount of fruit. And this is, again, sometimes people look like they're tall and don't have as much fruit. You ever seen some people that are celebrities or they got a lot of attention and, a lot of lights and camera on them, and you find out later their life was a wreck. There wasn't much there that they had produced. And so this is, again, very interesting. And then there's a semi-dwarf. And this is, again, another type of fruit tree. And here again, beginning to yield a lot of fruit, a taller tree, and then more of a standard fruit tree. Now, this is just dealing with fruit trees, but there could be a lot of other trees, as you know, that can get a lot taller than this. And that standard tree can yield a lot of fruit and is a lot taller, as you can see. But when you think about these different sizes, I want you to consider, what type of fruit tree are you? What type of fruit tree do you want to be? What stage are you at? And I want you to consider this because this is so important. When we begin to think about growth, we begin to think about where we want to be and where we want to go and how we use URCO and the tools in URCO to get there. These are some of the things you have to consider. All right, I want to talk to you about another very deep area, and this is what is called photosynthesis. Now, I know you said, well, what are we talking about here tonight? This is important, and I'm going to show you how this is related to everything we're doing in URCO. As you look on the image here, I want to give you just a little background. So those of you that are into plants and trees, you understand some of this and why it's important. Photosynthesis is really critical, and every tree has leaves on it. Those leaves are really critical. So the sunlight is able to hit those leaves, and then underneath the tree you have all of the roots, and those roots is where it goes all the way down into the soil, and that soil has some oxygen in there. It has a warm atmosphere. It also protects, it secures, and it has moisture. So when water begins to go into the soil, if there's enough water there, that's why trees do really well when they're by rivers. If there's water down there and nutrients, it's also, and minerals are all in that soil. That tree, through the roots, is able to pull that water up and all those nutrients and combine it with what's coming in from the sun. And then it is able to then take all of that, pull in carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and go through photosynthesis. And when it goes through photosynthesis, it generates sugars and food for the tree to give it energy. And then it generates oxygen that we, use to breathe surrounding the tree. So in essence, the tree is actually going through a process of generating its own food and then generating air for others to breathe. It is a converter of carbon dioxide to oxygen. So this is a very, very powerful thing in science that we understand about trees. Now, I want you to consider this for a minute. I'm going to talk more about this in a moment. But as a backdrop, I want you to understand the photosynthesis process and why this is so critical when we're beginning to think about growth. Because what better example of growth than plants and trees? All right. So I want you to consider for a minute. Now, look at this here. You see these two big, ginormous trees, right? And when you think about trees and you think about growing, there are two things that I want to leave in your mind when we think about URCO and what we're doing and we're considering growth. So when we think about growth, the one thing, there's two L's I want to explain to you. One is living. So we grow by how we live. We grow by the environments we're in every day. We grow through the decisions we make, how we live our life. All of those things create experiences and create growth. So this is one of the key L's. The other L is learning. We grow when we learn. So when we live and when we learn, it promotes growth. And that's why we want to be careful how we live and what we're learning, right? Because it determines what type of tree we become and how we grow as an individual. Trees are very interesting. Trees are alive. They are alive. And when you think about the fact that this is a living organism, this is something that you can, again, begin to see how when that tree is beginning to grow, it is because it is taking in the right things. And we as individuals, we have to consider how we live, how we learn, so we can continue to grow and develop. So when you think about this, let's talk about the living and learning that happens right inside our platform when we think about URCO, when we think about Uplift. And I'm going to take a journey with some of the things going on right now, but I want to show you how this all comes together. Now, when you think about the learning is really where we do in URCO. We have a lot of learning in there. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight. We do a lot of living in Uplift. This is where we talk about things going on in our real life, and we inspire one another and so forth, and we also can capture and journal the things that we're doing in real life. So this is, again, how I want you to think about some of the tools we have. We have living and learning right with Uplift and URCO. Now, speaking of that as an example, I want to go into the platform for a minute. There's some stuff going on recently. Here's my good friend Darrell Brown posting about some intermittent fasting that he was doing for his health and something that's working for him and his body. And he began to share that in the community. A nice visual here. And he's doing that in real life, having real benefits. And here was Christina, another good friend of mine that's in the URCL community. And she's a part of a challenge that we've created to shred body fat. And she posted what she did on her second day and showing real activity she's doing in the real world. This is another benefit. Here was Kingetta, and her husband have been longtime URCL champions, and they're talking about one of the bike rides that they were on, and this is real life stuff, but we're putting it in a platform like Uplift. And so again, this is what we're talking about, living the life, capturing that, and being able to move and to grow. Now, when you think about that, now here's some inspiring. This is, again, some other things that we need, and we're still talking about living right now. Now, here is Deetra, who posted, a wonderful quote here, and you can see this is, again, the type of inspiration. You can look on social media and see all kinds of stuff, and even sometimes you see positive stuff. But imagine an environment where everything is meaningful, everything is positive. That's the type of environment you want your tree to grow in. So here it's talking about how to actually get over certain things that have even went wrong, right? Not to forget all the things that you did right. Or Lacey Hankins, one of our young CEOs that's in Uplift right now, talking about how important it is to smile. And again, thinking about some of the things that you see there. And then there's Matt and who was that? Nathan Hancock, their son. They begin to talk about, Samaya. She posted her husband and son as they did a little Men in Black routine and sent her a video, and it brought some joy and happiness and even laughter. But then that is important. Did you know we need that in our roots? We need that in our environment. We need these things to actually help keep us in a certain frame of mind throughout the day. And I'm just using some examples, that's in our platform. Now, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Kimball Vaughn. He is like a Uplift champion. I mean, I don't know how many Uplift points he has. Go check out his profile. I think he broke Uplift a couple of times with all his activity and everything that he's done. He literally built his own weight system, his own rack here, as you see here, and he journaled it all the way through. And we were able to follow his journey from his weightlifting to the brand that he created, Iron Core, and to this comprehensive rack that he built. I mean, literally every step of the way. And I personally just love watching him begin to take an idea and bring it to full fruition. This is about real life achievement, meeting real goals, doing real things. And so shout out to Kimball Vaughn. And these are just a few stories, but think about it. This is what you want to surround yourself with, where everyone's on the same page. Everyone's providing nutrients. Everyone's providing water. Everyone's bringing in something meaningful that you can begin to create an environment for growth. This is what we're doing in Uplift. And then we've got some showrooms. You go in these showrooms. Now, I want to talk about a few showrooms that kind of took off here recently. I started this showroom called Best Theme Songs Ever, and it just exploded. I think it's like 130-something mints in there. It's only been around a few days, but I mean, from Wonder Years, as you can see there, to Soul Train. I mean, it's everything in there in terms of theme songs, and we've been laughing and talking and sharing, and it's just been bringing joy. Then a good friend of mine, Alvin Broussard, someone you just have to meet, and his personality comes through on Uplift. He started another showroom just days ago, Best Memories Ever. And next thing you know, this showroom took off. I mean, from, the Slinky back to whatchamacallits and all these different things that you see here. It was so many things that people began to share memories of, and we began to enjoy it together. And then recently, we used an existing showroom from another good friend, LaShawna Jackson, who is one of our individuals on the URCL teams, help our affiliates out a lot. and she had a showroom called Shred It, and I started a challenge specifically that we're going to attack some body fat over the next 30 days, and everyone else, a lot of people said it was going to join in, and we all came together as a unit, and we're going through that process right now. This is all about creating an environment where we can begin to do things together. So this is an example of our showrooms and living in that environment. Now, let's talk a little bit about learning. Now, I know some of you hopefully have been in the URCO app, and we have a product engagement team that's just been going to another level, giving you positive insights in the URCO app that will cause you to learn and think deeper about critical things as an individual. And here's the home feed there where you can see, some communications there about, overcoming fear, SMART goals. There was a series there on the 6 negative traps of negative thinking, the traps of negative thinking, and they begin to walk through little sound bites that we can really look at throughout our day and consume and begin to eat. See, now this learning begin to come in and we can begin to eat that learning, and this begins to cause us again to grow. Now, when you think about some of the other key areas as you move around that URCO app, even when you go to COTV, I remember our last show we had was on the science of uplift. Now, we talk about the science of uplift, what it really means to do that. And at COTV, you can always see what is on. It's like our own success television station. So lately, we've been, rehearsing uplift, the science of uplift, but sometimes you might see many of our shows and content. So imagine turning, I often say success is on. Are you watching? Because we always want to have something positive that you can actually learn from there. Now, when you go to the library inside of URCO, this is an area full of information that you can glean from and learn from and grow from. So what you want to do when you consider the question, am I growing? You want to consider making time available to go into this library and begin to get information and knowledge. Now, I want you to consider in this library, for example, some people you can see as they begin to interact, some people here left comments. I think this is Holly and Gina. They left some comments here on this particular session on overcoming the fear of public speaking. Now, it's important that as a community, as you go through here, you build a relationship with the learning, not just consuming, but leaving information, leaving comments behind. Leave some breadcrumbs of the things that you learn and gather, so when others come through, they will be able to gather and get some of those nutrients, right? Back to us growing. So I'm glad that they left some comments there, making the time to go in and learn, but then also making sure that you begin, as you learn, to leave some breadcrumbs behind. Now, I also want you to notice some of the podcasts. Now, here was a podcast with our good leader in URCO, Terry Fulton, and he's with one of our inspiring CEOs, Daniel Smith, and they had a wonderful podcast about the entrepreneurship leap, and they began to talk about that, and you begin to glean from real people. Now, when you think about this, I want to point out something to you. In that same podcast or on any of our coaching, any of our videos, you can click on that little button that you see there, listen to audio, and then you can listen in the background. What do we mean by listen in the background? Maybe you're working out and you want to, turn your phone off and still hear. You want, close your phone, or you want to finish something on your phone, go to somewhere else on your phone, wrap up an email, but be listening to the audio from that podcast. See, this is like that sunlight coming in, beginning to feed you. See, we have to begin to use these tools where we are making time to actually saturate ourselves with learning that we can begin to draw in, and that will feed us as a tree. And so this is, again, I want you to remember that this is another important tool that you can use when you're really, beginning to, it's something when you work out and you put some of these podcasts on or some of these shows or some of these coaching sessions on, and you'll be surprised what you get out of it. So this is something to keep in mind. Now, also, when you look at that library and you put in the search, so like say here you search for fear, it'll pull up things on fear. You search for health or you search something in money and you begin to go in here and find specific things that might be on your mind or things that you know you just want to get in your thoughts. You want to get on your mind. When you listen to a show, a coaching session or a podcast, you do not get everything in just one fell swoop. You actually have to consider that sometimes you didn't get it all. So you have to rehearse those things and make sure you get all the nutrients out of it. Now, another thing I want to remind you, let's bring this in a little bit. Here's a brand new journal here from URCEO, and I'm shouting out Shop URCEO. We have a wonderful store at shop.urco.com. But listen, this new journal, I'm going to open this up to make sure you actually get a good feel here. This brand new journal, I want to remind you all about this because I personally feel everyone should have a journal where when you're going through URCEO, don't just go through URCEO, take notes, take actions, make a to-do list, get your insights, write them down, build a relationship. Now, some of you are new school and you want to do it in your phone or on a tablet or some device. There's nothing wrong with that. But I know some of you out there don't mind writing things down, looking at your words, the exercise of moving your hands and just building a relationship with the content. These are things that you can do, but make sure you take the time to capture the insights. This all has to do with growing, making sure you're really learning, not watching, not observing, not viewing, learning. And you can come back and rehearse the things that you gathered in this simple way of tracking. So this is another powerful insight. Now, we know we also have things like the 30-day challenge, where you can go back through that challenge if you've already completed it, the success IQ that many of you have taken, but you all know you can go and retake those things. All of this is a form of food and learning. This is something we want you to keep in mind as well, because we constantly want to be pushing ourselves to do everything that we can to make sure that we're growing and developing. So this is very important. Now, I want you to, with that background in mind, and we talked about all of these different things inside of the product. We talked about, how you can use those things. Now, I didn't even go into great detail, but I want you to really take a renewed look at what you have access to. But when you consider that, I want to walk you through something back to what we were talking about, growth. Now, we talked for a minute about photosynthesis. Now, here's another way of looking at it, another visual. Sunlight comes in, right, to the leaves of those plants. Carbon dioxide is in the atmosphere. There's moisture and water and nutrients that have to be in that soil. That plant is able to pull up the water and nutrients from the soil and pull carbon dioxide out of the air and sunlight and go through a process that out of it comes oxygen and sugars for the plant to actually use for energy and growth. So those sugars and that energy and all of those carbohydrates, so to speak, for the plant, it begins to go back in and feed the plant. So the plant becomes a double source. And so when you consider this, right, I want you to let's go back to thinking about what we're doing with URCO and Uplift. Now, I want to show you a simple illustration here. That plant is you and me. And we have to consider that we want to grow. We want to be better. We want to get taller. We want to do everything we can to grow. Well, in the soil is our environment. That's Uplift. Uplift is the environment in the soil that is necessary for us to get the growth out of ourselves. We need a positive community. We need mind fitness. We need uplifting examples of others, and we need encouragement. So that water and moisture that has to be in there, those nutrients, sometimes we need to get that from other people. When you log into Uplift, I want you to see that as something that is getting your mind ready for growth, getting your spirit ready for growth, getting your mentality and your energy ready for growth. when you spend time in that environment, it's going to create a better soil for those things within you to generate more growth. So this is, again, everyone that is in a better frame of mind will be able to more successfully solve problems. People that are in a better state of being, they can better handle challenges that would have prevented them from moving forward and taking progress in life. That's why this is so important. Now, when the sun begins to shine, this is like you are a CEO and all that we teach shining down on you with education, coaching, inspiration, as well as experience being taught to you from many successful people that can impart knowledge and wisdom to you that can help you to grow. So those coaching sessions, those assessments, those challenges, those shows like tonight, the sunlight is shining on us right now. We're thinking deeper about ourselves and how to grow. That sunlight is coming from URCO. Now, we're just talking about an analogy here. Now, when you consider this, I want to introduce a new word from you. And yes, I'm known for making up words. Photosynthesis. That's right. Photosynthesis, not photo. Photosynthesis. Now, photosynthesis is a process of, a plant taking the sunlight and all this stuff and changing into food and oxygen. Photosynthesis is the process, let me walk you through this, as we get negative thoughts that come into our tree. It's like carbon dioxide, right, that comes in. Photosynthesis takes that and makes it into positive thoughts that come out. We learn how to spin it positive here within the URCO community as well as in our Uplift community. We learn how to spin things positive. And when those positive thoughts come out, because we've been in the right environment, we've been learning the right things, we've been living and learning, what happens? Now we have the ability to provide food for ourselves, food for you, right? Remember how I told you in the photosynthesis, it provides sugars and food for the plant, but we also can help others breathe. See, when we begin to be more positive, what does it do? It creates a better environment for those that's around us as well. It's not just good for us. It's good for everyone we touch. All of our friends, all of our family, every relationship that's near and dear to us. When our tree is more healthy, it generates oxygen for others. And so when you talk about being able to breathe, right? Sometimes we need a breath of fresh air. And we want to be a contributor of that by how we live our lives as trees that are really growing. And so this is an analogy that I want you to keep in mind. And when you consider, am I growing? I want you to think about this process and think about this as a way of life. All right. So I hope you got that. Remember that word, photosynthesis. Now, I want to now go over to the whiteboard, and I want to walk through a few things with you. And I want to talk you through just a real brief thing to kind of sum up what we've learned tonight. So as you can see here, there's a lot that we've talked about, but essentially there are three things that I want you to remember about growth. And I'm going to use again the plant and tree environment, but I want you to remember these three things that are very important, and we get all of that here within URCO. So one thing that we have to have, we talked about how we have to have the right environment. So environment is crucial. Without the right environment, we can't, even begin to get started, right? It's just like the tree, but without the right environment in the soil, right? Enough moisture, enough nutrients, enough oxygen beneath the soil, there's no way to get the growth started. And then we also know we need food. We'll put that here. So I'll put it in both. So we need food. And we know that we've got to pull in food from examples, food from coaching, food from training, food from the challenges and the things that we do to expand our learning, becoming more self-aware, learning more about fear, learning more about our professional things that we want to do. So this is not all about personal development. It's also about growing as an individual in the things that we're striving to accomplish. But all of that can be accelerated through the things that we have access to in URCO. So food is important. Now, these are two critical things. But there's another secret that's important for plant and tree growth. And I'm going to use that to kind of go around this whole thing, and that is space. Did you know that space is very important? Because if a tree doesn't have enough space, it can't grow. It'll block the growth and cause it not to grow. So you have to create space for a tree to grow. Now, we talked about environment in the soil. We talked about food with the sunlight and how it takes in carbon dioxide and water and then creates food from photosynthesis. But space is something I'm introducing a little bit new here for you, because this is also very critical. When we talk about space, we really are dealing with how we use our time. We have to make space for growth. Let me say that again. We have to make space for growth. So really, when you think about it, when we think about our food, again, we want to be, I talked about even taking our journal, capturing things, and we should have success notes. Success notes that we're capturing, that we're learning, these are insights, right? Our success insights, same thing. When we think about our environment, we're capturing success moments, right? We do a lot of that in Uplift. And we capture, that's what a mint is. When we post a mint, it stands for moment in time, right? So when you think about we're capturing success moments as well as acknowledging other people's success moments, it creates an environment within ourselves. And this, again, is very important. Remember, we define success as achieving things while maintaining your happiness. Very important. So it's not just achieving things at URCO. When we talk about success, it's achieving things while maintaining your happiness. And that's why sometimes we need a good laugh. Sometimes we need someone to give us an inspiring quote. Sometimes we need to journal and capture things we've done and let people high five us along the way. Those things matter. But when we think about space and time, now we're dealing with success capacity. In other words, how much room do you have for success? So again, I want to be as successful as much as I make time for success. So we have to consider, how am I building a schedule to make time to get food, to make time to go in the right environment so that I can begin to promote growth. And this is what we're talking about here at URCEO. And so again, remember that in summary, we want to take the right amount of space. We need to be in the right environment. And then in that environment, we can get the right food. All right, let's go back to our presentation here. I hope that you've enjoyed everything that we went over in this particular show. We are talking about growth. We're talking about development. We approach it from a different angle, and I hope you got a lot out of this. And now, what I want to remind you of, we've been talking about this for a while now, and I want to remind you, starting today to run tomorrow, I keep showing this, we're headed toward July 15th. We're doing all of this. Now, this is predominantly to our affiliates out there that are ready to run. We're using the product. We're sharing links. We're talking to people. We're finalizing the approach that we're going to use as affiliates, because we as soldiers want to get as many people into this growth environment, this success growth environment, as we can. And we got about 3 weeks left before July 15th come, and there's going to be some exciting things that we're going to be announcing on July 15th, and we're going to pick up the pace. So we're going to start today, and we're going to start with a walk and a trot and a jog so that we can run tomorrow, which is coming in July 15th. Now, I want you to consider a few things. Now, we are having a very important affiliate webinar. This is going to be on Wednesday, July 24th at 7 o'clock. All of you affiliates out there, you don't want to miss this webinar on the 4 ways to earn. You need to understand everything about the 4 ways to earn. Now, I want y'all to keep this in mind. When you think about the 4 ways to earn, we had a show last week, and as you all know, our webinar, I should say, I did a special training a special training on affiliate strategies. So if you've not listened to that, I need you to go to the URCO app, go to the Earn tab, go to the training area and listen to that training before coming to this webinar. Because in this webinar, I'm gonna have a special time period to answer questions and give you insights about that detailed training. You don't wanna miss that personal coaching. Listen, a lot of this training that you all are getting, people pay thousands of dollars for some of the insights that you all are getting in some of those trainings, so make sure that you take advantage of it. And then we're gonna go into the 4 ways to earn. Now, that being said, our next show is closely related to earning because it is called You Earned It. Now, why is this show called You Earned It? We are going to be celebrating the earning that's going to start this week. Did y'all hear what I said? The earning that's going to start this week. Something's going to start happening. And I want y'all to be aware, I got a special announcement before we go. I want you to, over the next few days, all of you out there that's been affiliates with us for some time, and some of you even from the past before we reinvented our affiliate program, we've been tracking all monies that's due to everyone. Now it's getting ready to be the time to fully kick into our full affiliate system. But before we do, we owe you all some money. And there's tens of thousands of dollars about to go out to our affiliates. I'm going to say that one more time. There are tens of thousands of dollars about to go out to affiliates. So each of you, that don't mean each of you going to get tens of thousands, but I'm telling you, when you add up all these payments that's going out to everybody, it's going to be tens of thousands that we're putting out. And so I want you all to be ready. If you have your debit card, you're going to start seeing some action. If you don't, you're going to get a check. But I'm so happy to announce, and I'm clapping it up for you, our CEO, the earning is going to start. And you are going to, by the time we have our next show, we're going to be celebrating people who have already received some of their first earnings as we move into the future of You Are CEO. I'm Michael Lee Parker, and it's been such a pleasure being with you tonight. Remember, whatever you do, don't stop growing. Don't start pushing. Make sure you do everything you can to use this platform to create your growth. Growth doesn't just happen. It's a decision that you make. And I want you to make that decision every single day to grow as tall as you can using everything provided you in this wonderful environment. It's all about us making the life that we want to become the best version of ourselves. Until next week, remember, get out there and let the whole world know that you are a CEO.
Yes, let the whole